Betty and Barney Hill, the first documented alien abduction case. The story of Betty and Barney Hill is one of the most famous and intriguing cases in UFO and alien abduction lore. It began on the night of September 19th, 1961, and has since become a cornerstone of modern UFO culture, sparking widespread fascination and debate about extraterrestrial encounters. A strange journey through the White Mountains. Betty and Barney Hill were a married couple living in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Betty was a social worker, and Barney worked for the U.S. Postal Service. They were an interracial couple. Betty was white and Barney was black, which was uncommon at the time, adding to the unique circumstances surrounding their story. After a short vacation in Canada, the couple was driving back home through the remote White Mountains of New Hampshire late at night. The weather was clear and the road was quiet, with hardly any other cars in sight. Around 10:30 p.m., Betty noticed a bright light in the sky. Initially, she thought it might be a shooting star, but it moved erratically and seemed to grow larger as they continued driving. Curious, Betty asked Barney to stop the car so they could observe the light more closely. They pulled over, and Barney used binoculars to get a better look. To their astonishment, they saw a disc-shaped object with multicolored lights hovering in the sky. The object appeared to be rotating and seemed to follow their car as they resumed their journey. A close encounter. As they drove southward on Route 3, the object descended and appeared to block their path. Barney, a pragmatic and skeptical man, stopped the car and stepped out to confront the situation. Using the binoculars, he claimed to see humanoid figures standing inside the craft, looking down at him. Feeling a surge of fear, Barney quickly returned to the car, yelling to Betty that they needed to leave immediately. He started the car and drove off at high speed. As they fled, they both reported hearing a series of beeping or buzzing sounds, which caused a strange vibration to ripple through their car and their bodies. Their memories became fragmented at this point, and the next thing they knew, they were 35 miles down the road, with no recollection of how they got there. The aftermath. When they arrived home in Portsmouth in the early hours of September 20th, both Betty and Barney felt deeply unsettled. They noticed oddities. Barney's shoes were scuffed, as though he had been dragged across a rough surface. Betty's dress was torn and had a mysterious pink powdery residue on it. Their watches had stopped and never worked again. In the days that followed, Betty began having vivid and recurring nightmares about being taken aboard a spacecraft. In her dreams, she and Barney were separated and subjected to strange medical examinations by humanoid beings. Betty's dreams described the beings as having large, slanted eyes, gray skin, and small bodies, now widely recognized as the archetype of gray aliens. Seeking answers. Troubled by the experience, the Hills contacted Pease Air Force Base to report their sighting, though they left out many of the more bizarre details. The incident was eventually included in the Air Force's Project Blue Book, a program investigating UFO sightings. Betty also began reading about UFOs and borrowed books from the library to understand what had happened. She wrote to the author of one book, Donald Kehoe, who was a prominent UFO researcher. This correspondence brought the Hills to the attention of NICAP, National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena. In 1963, the Hills decided to undergo hypnosis to recover their lost memories. They worked with psychiatrist Dr. Benjamin Simon, who used regression hypnosis to explore the events of that night. The hypnotic revelations under hypnosis, both Betty and Barney recounted detailed and consistent stories of being abducted by alien beings. According to their testimony, the aliens had stopped their car and escorted them aboard a saucer-shaped craft. They were separated and examined in different rooms. The examinations involved strange machines and samples of their skin, hair, and bodily fluids being taken. The beings communicated telepathically and seemed more curious than hostile. Betty also recalled asking one of the beings where they came from. In response, they showed her a star map. Under hypnosis, Betty later drew this map, which she described as showing trade routes and less traveled paths between stars. In the 1960s, astronomer Marjorie Fish analyzed Betty's star map and suggested it could represent the Zeta Reticuli star system, media, attention, and skepticism. The story of Betty and Barney Hill became public in 1965 when a journalist named John G. Fuller wrote a book titled The Interrupted Journey, based on the Hills' experiences and Dr. Simon's hypnosis sessions. The book was a bestseller, and the story was further dramatized in a 1975 TV movie, The UFO Incident. While many were fascinated by the Hills account, skeptics offered alternative explanations. Some suggested the couple had misidentified a celestial object, like Jupiter or a bright star, and their memories of an abduction were influenced by stress or cultural factors. Others pointed to the psychological pressures of being an interracial couple in the 1960s as a potential source of their shared trauma. Betty Hill remained an active voice in the UFO community until her death in 2004, steadfastly defending the validity of her experience. Barney passed away in 1969. The Hills story has become a foundational case in UFO research and alien abduction phenomena, inspiring countless other reports and fictional portrayals. Whether one believes the Hills were truly abducted by extraterrestrial beings, or that their experience can be explained by more mundane psychological or environmental factors, their story continues to captivate and intrigue people worldwide. It remains one of the most compelling and enigmatic cases in UFO history.